Have you ever seen the movie Roadhouse? Like, have you ever seen the first movie, 1989's Roadhouse?
We've talked about it, but I'd never seen it.
So I decided to rewatch it last night because they have a remake of it on Prime, directed by Doug Liman, who sucks. He's a shitty director. He fucking sucks. Are you looking him up?
Yeah,
I bring up this guy every time, and you always look him up.
every time. Edge of Tomorrow.
And
Edge of
you're
Tomorrow.
like, oh
Edge of
yeah,
Tomorrow.
yeah. You're like, oh, Edge Tomorrow, Edge Tomorrow. Look, Edge of Tomorrow is a good movie.
I like that
It's
movie.
not like that good though. Like it's just okay.
It's fine. It's
Like it's
fun. It's a
good.
fun movie.
Yeah, like it gets the job done, I guess. He made the first Bourne movie, which sucks, and he directed the terrible movie Jumper.
God, that movie's awful. It's
It's
so
an awful
bad.
movie. And he also made one of the worst pandemic era movies ever, Lockdown, which is terrible. It was so bad that it premiered on Max and then they took it off.
Is that bad?
It's like a Max exclusive movie that came out like in 2021. And then like a few years later, they just like took it off because no one gave a fuck. And people were weighing in on this new Roadhouse remake that he did. And people were saying it was bad. I knew it was going to be bad, but I was too curious. And it also is an excuse to rewatch the original Roadhouse, which honestly, after rewatching it, I think I even like it a little bit more. It's a great neo Western with arguably one of the greatest movie characters of all time, played beautifully by Patrick Swayze. He's vivid, he's clear, concise. It's such a well established, well written, well performed character. If there's any reason to watch it, it's just to see Patrick Swayze like do his thing and perform that amazing character. He's so good. You're rooting for him from beginning to end. You love him so much. He's so good. He's so convincing. And it's a 1989 movie. It looks great. It's lit amazingly, has great music, a movie that's completely of its time. I still think it runs a little long, but I don't feel that way as much anymore. So yeah, this remake, Jake Gyllenhaal is the character now. The character's name is I want to get the character name because I think the character's name is the same between both movies. James Dalton. Great movie name. Actually, in the remake, it's Elwood Dalton. So in the original movie, Patrick Swayze is a cooler. So he is basically like a lead bouncer and he's really good at it. It's one of those movies where it's very satisfying because you're watching a guy do a really good job at this thing that he does, a very specific thing that you never really thought about before. And this guy comes in, he's like, hey, I own this bar. It's a dump. I'll pay you a lot of money to come and help me fix it up. And he's like, okay, I'll go. And he gets there, and it's almost like it's like watching an episode of Bar Rescue. It's this really satisfying thing where he comes in and he turns the bar around. He kind of has like this philosophy and rule book that he teaches to all the people there. And so it's super cool to see him impart these things. But he has this backstory, which is he got involved with this woman who was married and the husband was going to shoot him and he killed him by ripping out his throat, which he does later in the movie, in case you were wondering. He's just super fucked up about the fact that he killed this guy that he feels didn't deserve to die, even though he did it in self defense. This is the problem of the remake. The opposite is the case. It is the most boring composite ever. The background of the Jake Gyllenhaal character, and Jake, he's like, I don't know what's going on.
Is he trying his best?
He's not trying at all. Gyllenhaal, he's been in some good movies, he's been in some bad movies. I wouldn't say I love him because he's starting to slip for me.
Hmm.
And in this movie, he's just like phoning it in. Yeah, even though he shouldn't be. And the background of this character is that Jake Gyllenhaal is a disgraced UFC fighter who killed a guy while in the octagon, and he feels bad about it.
So he's just a fighter.
Yeah, he's a fighter,
Oh.
which is so much more boring. And he gets recruited to do the same thing, except it's at like a tiki bar in the Glass Key, Florida, which, a beautiful looking location. It's just not the same though. I like kind of like the dusty sort of almost like pseudo Western environment in the original movie. Another thing too about this remake, very unfunny, very bad dialogue. It's shitty. It just kind of comes down to that central character. He doesn't have the same thing where Patrick Swayze comes in and he's just like boom, boom, boom. He has like this philosophy, this thing that you really believes in. Jake Gyllenhaal is just kind of there and he beats up people.
Are the fight scenes good at least?
No, they're really, really bad. They look like video game cutscenes.
That sucks.
There is like Hong Kong film level fighting choreography in the original.
Wow. Yeah.
The fighting in this movie is very uninspired, and the way that Lehman like whips the camera around is disorienting and terrible. The one maybe saving grace of the movie, and it doesn't save it, is the acting debut of one fighter, Conor McGregor.
I knew he was in this movie. How is he?
He's actually suitably threatening, but that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the only good thing I'll say about the movie is that like he's all right in it. It's not even in the same universe of quality. So yeah, I would not recommend seeing the remake. I watched it out of curiosity, but I would recommend the original movie because it's an amazing film. It really is fantastic. It's entertaining, it's funny, it's crazy, it's on another cocaine 1980s film level. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say about the Roadhouse cinematic universe.